What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. My name is Jaya, for those that don't know, and I love all things books. I also love fine dining because who doesn't love an experience once in a blue moon? It happened to be our 3rd anniversary yesterday as well, and we did get a chance to go to a beautiful restaurant called Knife Pleat, and we did select the premier course option, which came out with 6 different beautiful dishes. So today, what I thought we could do is an interesting twist where we definitely get to talk about a dish, but in between each of the dishes and each of the courses that we talk about, we will also talk about one of my favorite authors of all time, and that is none other than TJ Klune. If that sounds like something that's fun for you guys and would be entertaining, definitely consider sticking around for this video. Without further ado, let's get into it. It's reading time here at JB's Corner. So for yesterday's anniversary, we were celebrating our 3rd anniversary, which was the quote-unquote leather look. Now for this leather anniversary, I decided that I was going to fully pull out all the leather stops. So we had some faux leather leggings, we had leather boots on, leather jacket, and then I also had on a beautiful blouse that I had bought for myself for that event that was coming up, which was the anniversary. And knowing we were going to this lovely restaurant for this year for my anniversary, I did request that my husband give me a little bit of cash towards a beautiful bag that I ended up purchasing for myself, which was kind of representative of what I wanted for this particular event. Now, I don't think that anyone needs luxury by any extreme or in any way, shape, or form, but I do love some beautiful bags. I only believe in buying pre-owned or pre-loved luxury items if I do purchase them. I'm not really a consumer of brand new items. I like the idea of something having a history or a story to it. So this particular bag is actually designed to look like a book, and I just thought it's so cool that the concept of the bag itself is that it's supposed to represent an old leather journal. So I have inserted here a picture of us getting to the actual restaurant, and then I also have footage of the restaurant menu as well as the drinks and the small bites that were provided to us. So I'll take you through that first, and then we'll jump into the first book. Now, of course, me being bougie little me, I was very amused by this drinks menu, as I'm sure you can all imagine. And I just thought it was so funny reading the different titles of the drinks. And I did ended up getting myself the Yves Saint Laurent. It was very strong and it was delicious, but one was definitely enough. To start us off, we did get a little bit of an amuse-bouche, which was very interesting. We got this little cup that had some champagne foam in it, combined with some cashews as well as some grapes, just to enhance the flowers, and some edible flowers in there as well. And it was absolutely delicious. It was a very interesting experience. We also got with this a little bite-size cracker with cream cheese and fresh fig jam inside of it. And then we also received a little tartlet that had within it fresh squash and corn and other seasonal vegetables, which was very beautifully done. So now that we've kind of gotten an introduction to the meal and the drinks, hopefully you guys have grabbed drinks and food of your own as we jump into the first book that I'm going to be talking about today, which is one of the standalone books that TJ Klune has written, none other than Under the Whispering Door. This book is probably one of the sweetest books I have ever read. It is just such a heartwarming tale. We are basically following the story of a young man who finds himself at the crossroads between being alive and being dead, essentially. And in the middle of being in this crossroad, he has to basically atone for all of his simmering regrets and disappointments in life and come to terms with them and find closure in his life so that he can pass on to the next world. Now, in this process, he gets to meet a slew of characters that run this little inn under the Whispering Door, where all of these souls can stop on their way to the next step in their journey. And they also have regular customers that come by too. So our main character goes through a series of denials and experiences as he realizes that he has in fact died and he is in fact a ghost. And it's also very entertaining to watch him form relationships relationships with the various characters in this book, particularly the owner of the little tea shop, as their romance starts to occur. But in general, just a very heartwarming book, and you really get to see the different stages of grief, the different stages of acceptance, different stages of atonement for things that you may have resentment for or sadness for, and how slowly letting go of those things and overcoming those things leads you to a place where you have peace within your own heart. And I think it was just a very touching, warm tale. Now, this book was probably one of my favorites within the TJ Klune world. I will say here in this video, though, as I'm talking, that this does not include the Green Creek series. I'm currently working my way through that series. I'm currently on book 3, so there will be a separate review video for the Green Creek series. But I will say that Under the Whispering Door was definitely a beautiful book, and it's definitely one that I would recommend picking up. This is by far one of the most delicious, heartwarming books I've ever read, and I just think TJ Klune has a way with words, and it was definitely a 4.5-star read for me. So now that we've talked about the first book, let's talk a little bit about the food. Let me just say the first course was absolutely stunning. It was a beautiful salad, and within this salad, it had a lovely mayo citrus blend kind of dressing. It had walnuts in it. It had fresh salad pieces in it. It had some beautiful cheese in it, and it was just a stunning blend on the palate. And then they actually served us after that a little beet dish that was primarily showcasing the different beets of the season that had been pureed into a beautiful creamy base. And then on top of that, they had some fresh beets, some fresh squash that they had kind of cut up and put inside with little bits of crostini that were handmade by the chef. Okay, so let's talk about the next book that is a TJ Klune masterpiece, and that is none other than In the Lives of Puppets. Now, In the Lives of Puppets is another standalone by TJ Klune. This book is basically following the story of a human and his robot family who are living in a world that's isolated from everybody else because they are actually living in secret. Humans at this point have basically gone extinct. The robots have kind of taken over the world. So Victor, our main character, is actually very special because he's one of the last humans in existence. And his father is a robot that was initially created as an architect and a creator and ended up actually leading to part of the extinction of humans. But throughout the course of his experience in life, he actually builds himself a heart. And so now he can feel, and he creates this beautiful family. Between the two of them, they end up adopting 2 robots that were basically thrown away as junk. One is a very sassy nurse robot, and the other one is a little vacuum cleaner that is just terrified of everything. And the dynamic is so adorable. And while this family is living in peace and just living in existence, Victor is trying to figure out the next steps in his life. And throughout this entire process, there's something that's missing. And all of a sudden enters Hap. So Victor goes to the junkyard to basically find parts for one of his robots, and he meets Hap, who happens to be a robot that is someone that has a history with his father, that also is someone his father is afraid of. Now, by rescuing this robot, they basically bring down the robot army on them, if you will, and the father gets taken away back to the main city where he will be recommissioned as the chief architect in the city. And so Victor and his family are now on a mission to go save his dad. It's a very sweet story. The romance between Hap and Victor is also very sweet. It's just a very well done book. The sass of Nurse Ratchet is just absolutely incredible, and the little robot whose name I'm blanking on right now. What was his name? I can't remember what the little vacuum cleaner is, but it's just so cute. The cutest little vacuum you'll ever meet, and he just wants love. And it's just so sweet watching the story of Vic and Hap and their romance kind of coming together as they go on this journey to rescue Geo, who is the dad. Absolutely lovely, lovely, lovely book. Would definitely recommend. Again, a solid 4-star read. Now, after talking about such a delicious book, we have to get back to the food. So let's talk about the next course. We did end up getting fresh bread and butter that was baked in-house and created in-house for the butter. That was absolutely stunning. The crunch on that bread was absolutely phenomenal. We also ended up getting a mushroom truffle dish that had been done with a couscous pasta kind of base and sauce that was absolutely stunning, with almost like a chutney on the side. It was such a delicious flavor and palate, very appropriate with the earthiness and the flavor for the Thanksgiving season, and it was incredible. The next book that I would like to talk about is The Bones Beneath My Skin by TJ Klune. Now, this book was absolutely delicious as well. This is basically following the story of a young man who had very, very troubled past with his family, and he almost found solace in escaping his family, especially when they decided to kick him out after they realized he was a homosexual. And so he finds out that his father has basically passed on, his mother is also no longer there, and he has inherited the cottage that was left behind in the place where they used to go when he was a child. He very begrudgingly ends up going back to this cabin, which also has a lot of trauma associated with it for him. And he happens to find that there's a little girl and a man who have basically been living in this cottage without him knowing. So inadvertently, he is basically thinking that he may be walking into a hostage situation or something else equally terrifying, only to realize that the man that's there with this little girl is trying to protect her and save her and get her safely home. And he is being hunted by the US government because the little girl is not what she seems. In the process of all of this, he realizes that he actually does want to help these two individuals reach their end goal, and a romance starts to develop between the two main male characters, which is very sweet to read as well. It's kind of a grumpy sunshine, enemies to lovers kind of trope, which is very cute. And I think the story of the three of them finding their love for each other, their family, and one another, and just supporting each other throughout this book was very interesting. It was also one of those books where you are going on a journey and an adventure, so you get to see different facets of the lands that they're visiting. And at one point we talk about a cult that they have to go visit. At one point we talk about the scary place under the mountain where Art was kept as a captive, the little girl. We get to see the history of the militant man that is now on the run with this little girl and this budding romance. It's just such a sweet book, and it's very heartwarming and heartfelt. And I think that's true for any TJ Klune book. Like, if you want a book that's just going to make you sob uncontrollably because it's so beautiful and loving, he has a way of doing that with his books. Like, I think with the Green Creek series that I'm currently reading, I probably sob every 5 chapters. Like, and I'm not even kidding. There's video footage of me doing this as well in one of the videos I recorded, which was my outfits pick my book videos. Like, you can see me actively sobbing. So if you want a book that's going to make you laugh, cry, all the emotions out loud, TJ Klune is your guy, and this was definitely not a miss for him. Great book, another solid 4 stars. Next up, we have the 2 pièce de resistance dishes of the evening. The first one was a beautiful fettuccine Alfredo type of dish. Actually, not even that. It was more of a butter pasta. The pasta was made in-house. All of the ingredients were made in-house. It was absolutely stunning. And to top it off, they had fresh white truffle, which was incredible that they actually grated into the pasta. Then we also got a dish which basically featured a bunch of root vegetables that were seasonal. So we had some carrots on that dish. We also had some greens like kale and a beautiful mousse that they had created, like a cheesy, creamy mousse at the center of the plate. And it was just this beautifully garnished dish that just kind of melted in your mouth. Medley of vegetables, if you will. I'm sure that made your mouths water, but you can see all the richness in the food. So at this point, obviously, we're ready for dessert. And that also brings me to the books that will also be palate cleansers and desserts and everything you can possibly want in a book, because these are delectable. And that is a double whammy with the series The House in the Cerulean Sea and Somewhere Beyond the Sea. This is basically following the stories of Arthur and Linus as they are basically navigating a very dreary world where the government pulls all the strings of orphanages. Now in this, all magical creatures or magical children have basically been kind of pushed aside and looked at a little bit strangely, because regular human beings don't know what it's like to have magical powers, and they fear that which they don't know. So in this process, we have Arthur, who is also a magical being, a phoenix, a character of great power, who is basically running a orphanage where a bunch of magical children live. And one of the children who happens to live there is believed to be the son of Lucifer and is going to bring about the end of the world. He's known as Lucy himself. And basically he's believed to be an incarnation of Lucifer. So the government sends in Linus. So Linus is basically a government official who goes in and evaluates all of these different orphanages and decides whether or not they have the correct things in play in order to stay open and receive government funding, or whether or not the orphanage should be shut down. They usually send them in whenever an orphanage truly does need to be shut down. So Linus is leading a very dreary, sad life, and he shows up at this orphanage expecting it to be no different than any other job he's done for Dykemy. And then he meets Arthur and the children, and he realizes just how beautiful this island is and how beautiful these children are and how beautiful Arthur is. And together they slowly build a sense of camaraderie, and they basically fight to keep the orphanage open. The second book is basically from the perspective of Arthur, basically going in to showcase that he and the children are not dangerous and fighting for the rights of these children, as well as the right to adopt the children, because at the end of the first book, an event occurs that becomes nationalized, where people are concerned about Arthur being in charge because of the fact that he's a phoenix. We also see some changes that have occurred between the characters that are living on the island, the children and Arthur and Linus, and the fairy nymph kind of character that lives there versus the regular humans in the island. You can definitely see that there's been a transition where there's more acceptance and love and all that kind of stuff in the second book, and we're now taking on the fear of the hatred of the rest of the world to a newer level, more of a global level, if you will. But overall, just two beautiful books. And I think the little kids in this book is what makes it truly special. All of the different children have such unique and cute personality traits. We have Talia, who's a gnome, who's like absolutely sassy pants and gets herself in trouble. We have Lucy, who loves to spew out things like, I'm going to bring about the end of the world and try to scare people, but all he wants is love. We have Theodore, who just wants to be loved and can turn into a little dog when he's frightened. No, sorry, that's Sal. Theodore is the griffin, who is absolutely adorable. We have Chauncey, who wants nothing more than to be a bellhop of all things. His goal in life is to be a bellhop, and he's a big gelatinous blob, so he can't even really carry suitcases because his arm just kind of goes through them. But all of these characters, they're all so sweet. I'm missing one of the little girls, who also happens to be a sprite, and she also can work wonders with magic and nature and things like that. And all these characters are just so sweet and so loving. This is probably my favorite set of books of all time. These are probably some of the best books I've ever read by TJ Klune, and this is what started my obsession with TJ Klune. I loved these books so much, especially The House in the Cerulean Sea, that I made everyone and their child read it in terms of my friend groups. Now I will say there was a little bit of controversy around this book, which I think has since been resolved, and TJ Klune has kind of spoke out on this, but I do believe that his intentions in writing this book were very pure and very loving and very kind, and he's just trying to spread love. The romance between Linus and Arthur is absolutely beautiful, and this overall story plotline is probably some of the best things I've ever read. These are definitely not just 5-star, but 6-star books in my collection, and I sincerely hope that you get a chance to pick them up, because I promise you will not regret it. And as we finish talking about these delectable books, you have to understand that a dinner is just not complete without that little hint of dessert and sugar. So I just wanted to showcase here the desserts that we got. We did end up getting 2 macaroons that were house-made with a happy anniversary chocolate written plate that was written just for us. That was so sweet. We also got a beautiful mousse that had dark chocolate and yuzu, cold yuzu ice on, like sherbet on top, with a tuile that was made with, actually I forgot what the tuile was made with, but it was absolutely stunning. And then we also got at the end a couple of palate cleansers. We got a little raspberry dish that just popped into your mouth, and it basically exploded with flavors of fresh raspberries and raspberry liqueur. That was stunning. We had mint that had been candied, as well as a beautiful chocolate dish that had been coated with the edible gold and the flavoring, which was absolutely stunning. At the end here, I just have this little picture of the two of us after we finished our anniversary dinner. We had such a wonderful time. I hope you guys enjoyed this video with the mix of the two, a delectable dinner adventure, along with a beautiful, review of such amazing books by such an incredible author. I love food and I love books, and I love combining the two of them, so it just felt like an apt moment to do this. So for those of you that are new here, I hope you enjoyed the video. I do put out bookish related content every Wednesday and Sunday, and I love all things books. I do tend to stick more to fiction. If that sounds like something that may be enjoyable for you, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell. For those of you that are returning, thank you so much for being here. It has been such a pleasure to build this community with you, and I cannot thank you guys enough for your views, for your support, for your comments. I love reading through every single one of them, responding to all of you. Like, I truly love this bookish community that we're cultivating and creating. And I will leave everybody with this. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving with your loved ones and your families. If you're here in the US, if you are elsewhere, I hope you're enjoying the holiday season and the holiday vibes as they're coming around. I hope wherever you are, everyone is loved and safe and getting plenty of time to read. And I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye, guys.